Well, I really want to thank the NFU for inviting me to speak, and I've been an NFU member for 4 years, and I got more involved 2 years ago when the NFU agreed to participate in the carbon pricing court case. So I started out as an engineer and then became a farmer in 2004 and have been an environmentalist for probably 10 years. And in the last 2 years, I've been, since 2017, been pursuing a law degree, and now I'm articling as a articling lawyer at a firm in Saskatoon. So it's kind of a strange background that I have, but what I wanted to talk about here is my reflections on adopting minimum input farming on our farm. Next slide, please. So just really quickly, farming is one thing I'm passionate about, but certainly environmentalism is as well. And we've just going to go through a few slides of things that aren't necessarily farm related, but are commuting to and from the city for everything we do, all our off-farm income, and run it for parts. We've been driving electric vehicles for 3 years. So this was the first one we had. Since we've been driving electric, we've driven 80,000 kilometers, through our rough Saskatchewan winters. And I calculate that we've avoided burning about 7,000 liters of gasoline and saved $6,000. So this is kind of the engineer in me presenting numbers. Next slide, please. But everything I like to do, I try to influence people. So in this electric car, our first one, we had these vinyl letters in the back. Everywhere I drove, I was trying to advertise in Saskatchewan that we're saving $200 a month, but I routinely got people in big diesel trucks trying to run me off the road or blow black smoke. And I think there's a lot of people who feel threatened and upset about electric cars or that they don't work. Next slide, please. But we did like our electric cars so much that we ended up selling that first one we bought used, which was quite reasonable. We did buy a newer one, and this one we've taken it on trips from Saskatoon to Brandon and Regina. It's got a much bigger battery and longer range. So the technology is certainly ready to go. Next slide, please. We also on our farm have had renewable energy since 2008. We started with wind turbines, and those, I will admit, were a failure. And then we've had solar since almost 4 years, and the solar has been fantastic. My only regret with solar, and this is just a small building on our shop, not all of the panels are shown, but there's only a couple more rows missing. I wish I would have went with a bigger system. That's my only comment I will say about our solar system. It's been otherwise fantastic. Had I known I was going to try and electrify everything on the farm, yes, I should have probably had a solar system twice the size. Next slide, please. In addition to trying to electrify and have our own solar or renewable energy, we embarked over the last 2 years on really tying into our house and turning it into a much more efficient house by doing a deep insulation retrofit. So I rented an excavator and dug out all the way around the house and added 6 inches of insulation to the whole basement on the exterior. And next slide, please. We then also took off all the siding and built walls on the exterior of the house to add another 12 inches of insulation. So this is our family. It was a big project last summer, but we actually turned our natural gas off in 2008, and so we heat with the geothermal energy, and now the electricity we save on our geothermal energy in a year actually allows us to drive with our electric car about 27,000 kilometers. So again, a lot of things are possible if people only think about it. So the next slide, please. So when it comes to farming, you can go to the next slide. I think I've been really enamored with the minimum input farming and the work that the NFU has done with tackling the farm crisis and the climate crisis. It really speaks to me, and we've been doing a lot of intercropping to try and reduce our fertilizer inputs and our herbicide and fungicide inputs. So for about 4 years now, we've been growing canola and lentils together, sometimes also with underseeding of alfalfa. And we've been doing other intercropping, pairs as well. And so really what I've been doing is trying to really embrace this idea of minimum input and really cutting back on fertilizer. When you seed an intercrop like this, you usually cut your canola rate and your lentil seeding rate. So they're kind of in half. Canola being a very expensive seed. The thing I find about these two is they tend to work together in kind of a symbiotic relationship. And so when I grew lentils by itself as a monoculture, I'd have to spray it with fungicide to control the molds. I've never had to spray my intercrops with fungicide because the canola tends to grow up and bolt up and be tall, and then the lentils try to vine up the canola and actually aren't on the ground. So it not only does it save money, but I think it just seems to work better. So if you go to the next slide, what you're seeing in this next slide now is just how it is brought in off the combine. It should be the mixture of the lentils and canola coming into the hopper. So what we're doing now, I find with our practices doing this minimum input farming, is we've traded hours we used to spend in a sprayer for now hours that we spend cleaning grain post-harvest. So we've actually got quite a few old seed cleaners now, and we're just a small farm, but we're experimenting and kind of expanding our seed cleaning capabilities. Next slide, please. So after we've harvested the crop, we tend to bin it together, mixed as the intercrop of canola and lentils, and then afterwards we start separating it. So this picture is 2 years ago. I started kind of a smaller investment and smaller operation, but just a sort of proof of concept. It's proved to me there's so much benefit to it that now I'm this year the biggest reflection for 2020 was buying a bigger seed cleaner. So next slide, please. So the bigger seed cleaner we bought is this unit here. It's a 7-tube quick clean machine, and again, this was a particularly weedy field. I wasn't really happy with what happened on 50 acres, but yeah, this seed cleaner is about 4 to 5 times the capacity of what we had before. So it's certainly been a big addition for us this year in 2020. Next slide, please. So if you haven't checked out the farming or tackling the farm crisis and the climate crisis, that policy paper that the NFU has, I'd really encourage you to read it, because so much of what I think the conventional farming is, we just sort of accept it as normal. But I took this picture when I was coming back, the one in the background with all the ammonia trucks. It was spring of 2019, and I was just struck by, when I look at those ammonia trucks, you have to imagine that from a climate change perspective, we're taking natural gas and essentially converting it to ammonia, and it produces a lot of CO2. And then when I went to pick up my canola seed, when I went into the picture in the kind of the foreground on the lower right, going into the the plant where you buy your expensive canola seed and all these other expensive products they want you to just basically douse your crop with, I just have to shake my head and think that I'm much more comfortable, I suppose, with the idea of accepting the odd weed here and there and companion cropping, and then screening out those weed seeds and selling them as feed for my local neighbors who run small livestock operations. Next slide, please. So yeah, minimum input means less of the big, heavy duty inputs that are high emissions, and more of this cleaning your own crop and trying to separate your weed seeds and keep them and sell them as screenings to other producers. So this is just our third grain cleaner, and this one is actually out of an old elevator, and it's a 1930s machine, and the trucks are from the 60s. Everything's kind of old when it comes to equipment on our farm. But how about the next slide, please? So I guess what I wanted to talk about, so many of the things I've done when it comes to solar panels and electric car and home insulation, and yeah, I'm saving some money every year, maybe about $5,000 a year now in energy I used to buy. But the decision to go to minimum input farming, I conservatively estimate that I'm saving about $50 an acre in less inputs that I used to buy. So when you multiply that by even 600 acres, is about what I try to grain farm every year. That's $30,000 a year. But not only that, the emissions savings, I'm finding that There's I'm reducing my farm emissions by over 50 metric tons per year by going to this minimum input method compared to how I was farming before. Comparatively, all the work I did with my solar panels and my electric car and my home insulation, that's not even 12 tons a year. So farming is a really big lever that most people, I think, don't think about. And yes, I do have reduced yields, but I think I have a very similar net return because I have such a lower input bill in the spring. And I actually enjoy farming more because I have less risk. I don't feel that I'm as stressed out with, having this giant fertilizer bill or tremendous bills for canola and herbicide. I think there's some real merit to seeing farmers move to the minimum input farming. I'm certainly not organic, but really cutting back on your emissions has a big impact. And if you go to the next slide, please. I tried as an engineer and calculating everything. I went through all of my farming records and I tried to estimate the amount of emissions embodied in my fertilizer that was applied, all the fuel that I had burned and electricity that I used on the farm. And then I also tried to keep track of all the tons that I sold each year. And so just doing that ratio, around 2017 is the first year I played a little bit with experiments in 2016, but the main year was 2017 when I switched to minimum input farming, on a very committed basis. And so prior to 2017, you can see I was essentially producing about 6 tons of food for every ton of emissions. And after 2017, I would say that the average is probably around 12 tons of food for every ton of emissions. The one anomaly year that sticks out here is 2019, and I will tell you that we had a very, very dry spring and a kind of following a dry year in 2018. And, I just made the decision in 2019 that I'm not going to spend not a dime on fertilizer. And so I had a very high ratio of food produced for every ton of emissions. Most of those emissions are all just diesel fuel. But I don't know that I guess I need some organic people to teach me how sustainable that would be. I kind of felt that I might be just mining the soil if I don't apply any fertilizer, but I certainly would be welcome to accept an education from some of our organic people. Next slide, please. I think this is my last slide coming up. So this is my summary of the minimum input agriculture. And again, I really encourage you to read that Tackling the Farm Crisis and Climate Crisis, because it does a great job of covering this. So for me, minimum agriculture has meant reducing risk, minimizing inputs, primarily fertilizer and spraying. I now, with the intercropping and often seeding alfalfa, I try to keep all our fields with green cover on there. I've done some, participated in some soil conservation sessions and conferences. And to me, it's very compelling that if you treat the soil as a living organism, the only time that the soil is being fed is when there are green plants on it, converting the sun's energy through photosynthesis into food energy for the whole host of things that are living in the soil below that depends on photosynthesis. So as a conventional farmer, when you do your pre-seed spray and you don't have anything growing there till the end of May, and then you kill it all with a pre-harvest spray in the middle of August or late August, you really only have the soil growing and taking energy from the sun in 3 months. So yes, the sunlight hours are lower, and I can attest to that with my solar panels in early fall and late spring, but green cover there helps feed the soil. And then I guess the last part about improving farm net profit, it's debatable whether the net profit improves. I certainly haven't seen it change a whole lot, but my risk is so much lower, and my lower input costs, it means I have lower yield, but if I'm getting the same net return, I think to me that is the way to go. And perhaps that means there would be less food produced in Canada if everybody was a minimum input farmer, but that might have the effect of raising the price for us, which overall might be a good thing. I think that's it for my presentation. Sorry, I was a little perhaps long-winded, but I'm pretty excited about this stuff, and environmentalism to me is a real big thing, and I really want to thank the NFU again for their willingness to participate in the carbon pricing reference. And hopefully we'll get a decision from the Supreme Court that we all like early in the new year.